Hello, my name is Roshan Narayan, and thank you for joining us on In20. If you're watching us on YouTube,
do that back four and protect and pass the ball very, very simple. He is brilliant. If you put
Hello and welcome to In20. Danny's on my left. He must be on your right. Danny, I need you to just listen to this carefully and tell me if this is annoying. Is that annoying, or talking about Ed Woodward is more annoying to you?
Well, I'm not a Manchester United fan. Having played for Leeds for many years and Manchester City, then
yeah.
Oh well, I found it quite funny. I've also told you many times that I really like Jose. I think he's a fantastic manager, a fantastic coach. I like what he does. Well, it was a great weekend because Liverpool lost. And they lost big time. Man United lost big time. I thought Leeds were going to get beat in the first 20 minutes. That could have been 7. But they came back and they got a point. So, yeah, it's been a very, very good weekend.
Okay. Patrice Evra recently on his social media came out and said that Ed Woodward is talking to the wrong guys. I mean, that's a big statement for someone to come and say that the guy in charge of Manchester United is talking, or rather getting advice from the wrong people. If there's smoke, there's fire. But I think these people?
I think we know that. I think, when you look at their transfer policy, it's been absolutely appalling. Their recruitment has been terrible, over the past, nearly decade. Since even towards the end of Sir Alex Ferguson's tenure. It wasn't magnificent, was it? He didn't leave David Moyes with the greatest squad of players, going into that when he took over. Okay, he's an exceptional businessman. He's done incredible commercial deals, but the identification of players, getting the right players in and getting the deals done has been nothing but shambolic. And that's what's led to a lot of Man United's problems.
But you do it once, it's okay. You do it twice, it's okay. Now it's gone on for a few years. And just yesterday, I was having lunch with my friend, and his 2 boys started laughing when the name Edison Cavani was brought up, because at 33, about £200,000 a week. I mean, that is ridiculous. So, as I mentioned, do you have any inclination who these people are that's advising good old Ed?
Well, I think when you go back to Sir Alex Ferguson, wasn't really the head coach. He was the sporting director. He was the manager. He was the team manager. He did the deals. He made sure he identified the talent that he wanted, through his scouting network. He got the deals done. He was part of the contracts and he did all that, which was fantastic. He had Rennie Moulenstein. He had Steve McLaren. He had Mike Finn. He had fantastic coaches in that. So he was almost a sporting director. This country is still a long, long way behind in terms of sporting directors. When Frank Arneson came into Tottenham, it's a long time, 2004, I think. He'd been working at PSV for 10 years previously as a sporting director before that. And people laughed at this role. And this was 2004. People said, why do you need a sporting director? What is this all about? What is this new European model? We don't like it. It doesn't work. Well, it clearly does, because now you have head coaches. You go out, you train the players. You work on the pitch. You have an input into what sort of players you want. But the sporting director, amongst everybody, brings everything together. He heads up the medical department. He heads up the scouting network. He heads up recruitment. He heads all these things. Yep. And between him and the manager, you get the right players in that work. Look at what Everton have just done. And Marcel Brands has been there for a while. Okay, they made 1 or 2 wrong moves in the transfer market. But now they got identified a manager that they wanted. And Marcel Brands is responsible for bringing him in. If it doesn't work, he's responsible as well. And then they identify the right players and they bring the right players in. Where is that structure at Manchester United? And forget about football. This is one of the biggest businesses on the planet. Manchester United is a global business. Yeah. You can't, you have to have you have to have CEOs in place. You have to have financial directors in place. You have to have departments of HR in place in any big business. Manchester United is no different. But Manchester United seems to be lacking the most important piece of that jigsaw, which is a sporting director.
So if I know you mentioned that anybody from any walk of life can come in and take that job, but if you were to mention a big name, like maybe perhaps like a Rio Ferdinand goes in there and he does the business? Do you
It's
think
not,
someone
no,
like that?
not in the slightest. It doesn't have to be somebody that has played for the club that knows football. It has to be. It's a management position, and it's managing people. It's a really important role. It's a chief executive role almost, where you are then picking the head of the medical department, the head of the academy, the head of football. You're picking the manager. So yes, you need to have some football knowledge. That is very, very important. But it's not the be all and end all. It's just like, right, we'll put a footballer in place, because they don't know the business. They don't know how to motivate different teams, how to get all these different teams to communicate together to make the club one as a whole. Yep. But there are people out there that have done this role for a long, long time. Look at the Dutch models, the German models, the French models. It happens. So why are Manchester United reluctant to do it?
Why are they reluctant to let Ole Gunnar Solskjaer go? Is he using his legacy as a United legend to cushion some of this negative stories coming out and saying, it hurts me more than anybody else. I've been with the club. You don't know how much I love it. Like on Facebooks and friendship requests on Facebook to Manchester United. I mean, that's going to die sooner or later, right?
Yeah, it is. And also, this is, forget about the scoreline, forget about the 6-1. But that's happened before. You're always going to get those sort of scorelines. We've seen it in the past with, Arsenal, Manchester City. Everyone has been beaten big, even Barcelona, in the Champions League, have been beaten big on occasions. But it was the manner of the performance. The manner of the performance against Crystal Palace was unacceptable. There was not enough energy. There was not enough determination. There was not enough spirit, not enough fight within that team. The game against Brighton, they got lucky. They could have been 5-0 down. Brighton hit the woodwork 5 times in that game, and they could have been out of sight. And then you play a very, very similar team. I think 1 or 2 changes between all those teams. You play Tottenham, you go 1-0 up, and then you lose 6-1. And after Martial got sent off, they threw the towel in. They gave up. There was no spirit. There was no fighting for the shirt. There was no energy. There was no good attitude. And that has to come from the manager. That's where it starts and finishes. So results sometimes, if the performances were good, sometimes you get beat. Sometimes it just happens.
Fair enough.
But you cannot have performances like that. And it's 3 in a row performances. It's not just a one-off. I know we're all going to look at the result and look at the 6-1.
Yep.
But that should not happen. You get to 3-1, you shut up shop. You do something that you make sure that does not happen. And they just did not do that.
Harry Maguire, a mistake. Has he gotten over whatever happened to him personally in Greece? Has he brought that on the pitch?
You have to start to wonder that obviously, are things bother him off the pitch? His form hasn't been fantastic since that's happened. Of course, he was left out of the England squad, now back in it. But, his form isn't good. Manchester United are struggling to find a partner, to go alongside him. That isn't working. Manchester United could have 4 players sent off yesterday as well. Pogba was lucky to stay on the pitch. Luke Shaw was incredibly lucky to stay on the pitch. Okay, they've just signed Telles, a left back, who looks like he will come in and play there. But you've still got an issue. The most crucial part of any successful team is the centre-back pairing. If that isn't any good, you've got no chance of winning anything.
So, if you want to talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer not being able to cope with the pressure, we've spoken about him enough. How about Pep Guardiola? Isn't it about time that someone actually looks at this man and says, apart from, say, Raheem Sterling, who else has improved under him, especially at the back? You can't keep just buying defender after defender, Danny. There's got to be a point in time when you go like, hey, listen, there's a lot of players out there. You need to start working on them and make them better.
Yeah, no, I think he has made a lot of players better, in that side. Sana, he made better. Aguero, he turned into a different type of player.
All
rather
attack.
than just being, of course, and that's his forte. But I think, you're right. But we look across the whole of the Premier League.
Yep.
Nobody can defend. Nobody wants to defend. There's not been 1-0 in the Premier League this season.
Yeah.
When I was playing, 1-0 was one of the best results you could get. Clean sheet, 1-0 win, happy. Yeah. Arsenal won league titles with George Graham and played, off the back of 1-0 to the Arsenal. It became synonymous throughout the country, throughout the world almost. That was what Mourinho conceded 15 goals in that year that he won the Premier League.
Yep.
At the moment, teams have conceded 15 goals in the first 3 games. It's horrendous. Defending is the easiest part of football.
That's because you're a defender.
No, it's not. It's much right. What is the hardest part of football? Is to score a goal.
Okay, fair enough.
So therefore, the easiest part is to stop people scoring a goal.
So
simple as...
why can't Pep get it right? Come on, just say it, Danny. He's not good enough.
No, I don't think they work on it. I don't think they work on defending good enough. When I was being drilled by the likes of Steve McLaren, and we had Steve Harrison, he played for Blackpool, was at Everton, coach at Everton, was a fantastic defensive coach. We had Gareth Southgate, the late Ugo Etiog, Frank Quadru, myself in there, George Boateng would sit in front. And we used to be drilled 35, 40 minutes every single day on defensive duties about how we were going to play, against the team coming up. Put right mistakes that had happened previously and how we were then going to play. You've got to work on it. You've got to work on defensive issues, because if you keep a clean sheet, even if you play badly, you can nick a goal the other end. One of the most common drills in football is, defence v attack, outnumbered. 5 defenders versus 8 attackers. We could go for 20, 30 minutes. We might concede 1 goal. And that might be a little bit lucky. Or we might concede none. That's good defending. I think if you did that at the moment, there'd be about 50 goals going in the back of the net. And that's not just down to the quality of strikers getting better. Yeah. It's just woeful defending at times.
But when you look at City's back four, they're good players. They're not bad players. I mean, they do make mistakes, like Mendy has made a few mistakes, but are they that bad?
Well, Mendy's not a great defender, is he? I think we've seen that, ever since he came into the football club. Kyle Walker's a better defender, but he's still better going forward. Emerick Laporte is a very, very good player, and I think he's a good defender. Diaz has only just come in, but before that, who was it? Otamendi, was it Ake, whoever it was? It clearly wasn't working, and that was why City scored more goals than anybody else last season, but they couldn't defend, and that's why they didn't win the league. So they lost 8, 9 games. I can't remember what it was last season. Way too many to get anywhere near, the title. You've got to coach defending, and when and it's so important, but it's boring, it's dull, it's not exciting. Nobody grows up wanting to be a right back. No one grows up wanting to be a centre half. We don't, we all want to be. When I was coming through, it was Socrates and Zico, and Pele, and then it was Maradona, and then it was Baggio, and Totti, and people like everybody wants to be scoring. Ruud Gullit, everybody at Van Basten, everyone wants to be scoring goals. Yeah. Not many people grow up going, oh, I want to be Baresi, or I want to be, whatever. I want to, maybe I want to look like Maldini, but, I'm not sure I want to be a centre half, Yeah. And I think when we've gone so far the other way, it's all about attack. It's all about creativity. Trent Alexander-Arnold, one of the best attacking fullbacks, if not the best in the world, gets exposed defensively. Happened against Leeds United in the first game. And obviously happened last night as well. Players have got to understand that first and foremost, you're a defender. Yeah. If you're good enough, you're an attacker. If you were good enough, you would be playing midfield or you would be playing up front. You're not. You're a defender because that's what you're best at. So defend. How complicated is it?
I can just hear the passion for defending coming out through a defender such as yourself, Danny. I mean, that 7-2 for Liverpool, it was just a blip, right? I remember when, Manchester United were winning titles left, right, and centre. They were on this good run.
They never got beat 7-2.
Not 7-2, but they got hammered by Chelsea. I remember at Stamford Bridge. I think Nicky Butt was sent off in that game. But it's just a blip, right? It's just a one-off.
I think it is for Liverpool. No, I believe it is. It was just one of those nights where it went wrong. But having said that, they conceded 3 against Leeds, in their opening game of the season. And defensively, they were a little bit slack. They didn't really perform. Van Dijk isn't as commanding as he has been.
Errors are coming in.
Yeah, in recent seasons.
Mistakes. Yeah.
So, but I think Jurgen Klopp will address that. I don't think that will be a huge. They've been sensational for the past 3 seasons. They've been absolutely brilliant. It's a one-off game, I think, and maybe this is the tail end of what happened last year when they came out of lockdown and we had Project Restart, and they'd already won the league. Yep. And they could just take their foot off the gas a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit of a hangover of that involved in it, and they just need to get back up to speed very, very quickly.
That's fair enough, but you mentioned Trent Alexander-Arnold having some problems. Van Dijk has made mistakes. Gomez has made mistakes. There's is that it, I won't say it's laziness or anything like that, but there are mistakes coming into this back four for Liverpool.
Yeah, there are, and this is why they've got to eradicate them. Even in the game against Arsenal, Andy Robertson, uncharacteristically made a mistake, and gave Arsenal a start in the game. They've just got to get back to basics, and that's what defending is. A very simple game. Just do the simple things correct. It's hard as a defender because if you go into a team, you want to show what you can do. Sometimes like with the goalkeeper, but you can only defend and you can only save what's thrown at you. If you're a midfielder or you're a forward player, you can get the ball, you can run at people, you can make something happen, you can be creative, you can stand out. As a defender, just be good, and almost go unnoticed. And then you go, oh, actually, yeah, he's played really well today because he hasn't had to make a last-ditch tackle. He hasn't, made any mistakes. And that's the whole point of being defensive-minded. It's about not making mistakes and being safe.
Okay, you can say that all you want, but I can still say that mistakes are going to happen for that Liverpool team. We like it or not, that's the truth. But I found the story really, really interesting, and I think I sent you this link. You are a big fan of Steve Bruce. You've been defending him for his job at Newcastle, and then all of a sudden I came across this fan website that had a go at him for not playing Jeff Hendrick. I was like, what are you trying to achieve by bringing up something like that?
Well, he's got into the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. Newcastle always gone about they want to have a run in a cup competition. Well, he's done that. He's changed the way that they play. They are far more exciting now, especially with Callum Wilson coming in as well. They have a threat. They have a bit of pace. They're playing well. They're scoring goals. It's like, hang on a minute. You didn't want Steve Bruce because he was safe and boring and he kept you in the league, which was his job. Yeah. He's now transformed that. You're playing more exciting football. You're winning football matches, and you still don't want him. It's like, come on, what do you want?
Yeah.
There's this huge myth that everybody's got to play like Barcelona or Manchester City in their heyday, whatever. No, sometimes you have to play efficient, but he's doing both. He's winning football matches, and it's entertaining to watch. What more do you want, Newcastle fans?
Yeah, I mean, if at all there comes a time where maybe, the money does come in, there's a takeover, would they keep Steve Bruce at the job?
I think he deserves to, but I think it's very, very difficult because we've seen it a million times. New owners come in with big money. They have their own ideas, sometimes delusions of grandeur, but where they're going to go within the space of, 2 weeks, let alone, 3 or 4 seasons. They bring a new manager in, they spend a load of money and it doesn't quite work. It's not always the right way to go. I think Steve Bruce he knows the game inside out. He played at Manchester United, won everything. He knows what he's doing. He's been a coach, many, many times over, different clubs. Players like him. Players understand him. I think I would like them to see Newcastle stick with him if the money does come in, but I don't see that happening.
Okay, fair enough. One final question. I know we started off with Manchester United, your favorite team. We will end with the Manchester United question, and hopefully, before we finish this show,
they won't get relegated, Roshan. Don't worry.
Will Ole Gunnar Solskjaer survive till December?
I think he will, but I think it depends on the next 3 or 4 results. If they are bad and performances are not the same,
it's not bad enough.
Well, no, I don't think they'll make a decision quite yet. I think they'll come out of the international break and say, right, okay, maybe it was a blip, because of the sending off. There is maybe 1 or 2 excuses in there. But if you have another 2 or 3 bad games and bad performances, especially when you've brought in Cavani and you've now got 2 weeks to work with him, you've brought in Tellez, and you've got to work with him and get him into the game. I think if you have 2 or 3 bad results off the back of the international break, then he's under pressure, serious pressure.
Mauricio Pochettino must be rubbing his hands. Thank you very much, Danny, for joining us. I shall see you next week. And I thank you for joining us if you're watching us on the Rakyat Post, or if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, do hit the subscribe button and catch all the highlights on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram account. Till the next time.